that up there. So, as I have been thinking this week of just the world and where we are and what we're doing, and how we've been in this mode since March of in our consciousness thinking we're just kind of making do somehow. Like we'll make it through a difficult period, but we'll make do and then we'll get to that spot that we can go back to normal in some way. But for me, I'm in a little different phase at the moment. It's thinking not so much of going back, and even in recognizing that we have certain physical limitations, that there's nothing to keep us from doing what we do better. And just thinking of us as a spiritual community, that yes, our room's still basically empty. There's 5 of us here. And of course, we have the lawn crew out there, not people mowing lawns, but actually people sitting on the lawn listening. So we invite you to do that. But to think that in the involvement of us as a spiritual community, how can we take what's available to us now and do it better? And I don't have the answer completely to that question yet. But to rather think, let's just make do, let's go to the next level, that we don't have to be dependent on, cures or vaccines or any number of things to be a spiritual community in a better way. And so what's our role, I think, as a spiritual community? To, and mostly I think it's to teach. But as I think of our philosophy and science of mind, we are a community that teaches but doesn't tell. Meaning that my role, I think, as a minister is to teach spiritual principles and then ask us to see how those work in our personal lives, how we need to apply them in our personal lives. And there can be a great different idea of how we do that. And that sometimes there can be a great difference of how we do that, and that we can have those conversations respectfully and to really think, how is someone else translating this spiritual principle in a different way? And I think that's kind of a different model for a lot of faith communities, because a lot of people look to people like me, clergy person, to tell how they should be doing a certain thing, to tell what is in integrity or not in integrity, and to go beyond just saying these are kind of the guidelines and the spiritual truths that we live by, and that you really have to go inwardly and figure a lot of this out on your own. And it makes it a little bit more uncomfortable. I mean, I think sometimes there is a comfort in just being told something. But I think right now the lesson is there's a deeper learning that we are doing as a human family, of seeing how do we use these principles in our life? How can we heal our world in a deeper way, in a world that sometimes does seem to have lost its mind? So this is where I think we are. So this is an interesting analogy I came across, at least within myself this week. So imagine I had a traditional deck of cards, 52 cards and a joker. That might be 54. And let's just say that I threw it up in the air like this, and that there was a slow motion camera here that was going to take it, because if I threw it up within 2 seconds, they would be on the floor. But here's what you would see if you went to super slow motion. So I'm going like this, and in the slow motion, you would just see this explosion of cards. And at a certain point, when they stopped reacting to the energy that I did, there would almost be a half a millisecond where they were weightless, and then they would fall, being overtaken by the gravity of the earth. So I think these last few months have felt like the cards, like that. And I feel like right now we're at weightlessness, and we're starting to fall back down to earth. Now, when you throw the cards up in the air, it's coming back down to earth. It's seemingly random, isn't it? Who knows where, as they say, who knows how the cards will lay or fall? But here's the thing. Right now, we can decide how they fall. Through our intentions, through our desires, through how we treat other people and have people treat us, through our our deepest desires for everything to work out well, for us to believe something beyond what we see just out here, which is the chaos of the cards, that we can actually, as a group, decide how those cards fall. And I just have this sense now that they're just starting to come down. And kind of we're out of I think maybe over the shock of the world being completely different, and coming to our senses and realizing we have it within our power to decide how this turns out, individually and collectively. And how we do that in this seemingly chaos. So imagine, again, the slow motion camera, and all these cards are suspended in the air. So it's all these ideas everywhere that seem to be disorganized. But there is organization in there. And we can ask some really deep and amazing questions within that seeming chaos. And we are doing it right now. Of course, sometimes in trying to answer them, it comes off, again, seemingly more chaos. Thousands of people protesting on the street, which I think is a good thing at times. So it's just that we're asking these questions. So I think the way out of figuring out how these falls is to be able to ask these questions, and ask questions that are even very uncomfortable to ask. And to do it without shame or guilt or think, oh, we can't talk about that. To just ask the questions. So I watched another episode of this week, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. I talked about one a few weeks ago. There's 7 episodes, and I'm purposely not just binge watching them. As wonderful as the 2 that I've watched, there's so much in there that I just want to be with it for a while. And it's about, as it says, uncomfortable conversations. It's about having uncomfortable conversations. Now, these videos aren't uncomfortable, but it just in a very let's have a cup of coffee and talk about something that we told ourselves a few months ago that we can't talk about. So the guest in this conversation, the host is Emmanuel Acho, and he's just something about him is just, I could see myself having a cup of coffee with him and just talking it out. I mean, he's just such a sweet man, an Afro-American man. And his guest was Carl Lentz, a pastor of Hillsong East Coast Church. And Carl happens to be white. And so the subject of this episode was the role of spiritualism or religion or spiritual paths in this whole mix that we are right now. And of course, they were talking about just the subject of racism, which is thankfully a topic that we're talking about now. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And Carl Lentz was talking about how, on one hand, religion can be a source of great comfort and direction in this. And on the other side, they have been a source of confusion and denial of it. And he pointed out that right now, here we are, 10 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. As Carl said there, this is the time of the week that we are the most segregated in the country, that we go to our own corners more than any other time. And people are looking for comfort. They're looking for so many things, but they're looking to get away from, in some ways, just not talking about it. And so I think what we can do, as in this video, is talk about it a bit. And to see, well, where are, again, our blind spots? Now, so again, this isn't about looking in and saying, oh, what bad things have I done, especially in the areas of race or racism that I wasn't able to admit to myself. It's like, let's just shine a light on this and go, I didn't know that was something that shouldn't happen, or I didn't realize that I wasn't looking at that thing in myself. I didn't realize that when I saw someone go through something difficult in public that it was more comfortable to turn the other way. So it's time to just have those conversations without shame or blame and just say, the cards are up in the air. We can talk about it all right now, which I think is great. And so Emmanuel Acho, through this conversation, started to give a little bit different, deeper version of a parable that many of us have talked about or heard about. I think we've all heard about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Even if you weren't raised in any sort of Christian home, you've heard that there is such a parable. And so it's something that in our conversation. So let me just briefly tell the story for those who know there is a story but don't know the story. So basically it goes like this. So a man, 2,000 years ago, a Jewish man was robbed and beaten and left for dead on the side of the road while traveling. Now, first, just a historical context. In the 20th and 21st century, travel from city to city is pretty safe. I went to Twin Falls yesterday. Pretty easy, 70 miles. Got in my car. There was air conditioning. If I needed something on the way, I could stop. It was really a safe trip. When we go back in history, that 70-mile trip could be very perilous. And it wasn't just about having enough food and water. You could very easily be like this man who was robbed and then beaten and put on the side of the road. So it would be something that you really wouldn't want to travel alone if at all possible, because it was perilous outside of groups. So again, this is where the context of it. The man got beaten and robbed on the side of the road. So while he's on the side of the road, the first two people pass. And one, as in scriptures they say, is a Jewish priest, and the second they say is a Levite. Now let me show you the importance of this. So you would think someone who is a clergy person would see someone on the side of the road and know that it is their job, at the very least, to give assistance. But as they say in the telling in Scripture, is that he went to the other side of the road and walked by. The second person, as they say, is a Levite, is a higher caste of a person who also serves in the temple. That's a lot of what they do as a group. So again, someone thought of as high standing in the community, also Jewish, walked back by another Jewish man and said, again, walked on the other side of the road and pretended not to see. So the third person, our friend that we all know about, the Good Samaritan, was one who actually stopped and helped. But here's the thing, and I did some reading this week. First of all, the Jews and Samaritans were at odds at this point in history, were adversaries. But one writer that I read this week said they would have saw each other as the most despicable, unclean, terrible, insidious people you would ever think of. So it's just not like, oh, they're someone of another religion or country. It's just like the foulest thing on earth. So here the Samaritan was seeing someone on the side of the road and culturally raised to believe that that was the foulest thing on earth, who basically, if anything, you should kick him before you walk by. That is the person who decided to give help. So there's so many things to look in here, and especially for today. And the first thing that I came through, that there were some great things that Emmanuel Acco had to say, but something that I came to is that, so imagine this is a real story. Imagine the priest and the Levite 2 weeks ago, I don't know, were out to dinner. I'm assuming they did that in those days. And someone said, could you ever see yourself walk by a fellow Jew who was on the side of the road near death and just walk by? And I would imagine the conversation would be, are you crazy? I'm a priest here. I would never walk by someone else, let alone a fellow Jew, and just say, you're on your own. So I think of that for us. We, within ourselves, in this time of looking at, quote unquote, the other, or issues where we might have mild racism within ourselves, if you were asked, would you ever see yourself doing blank? Of course we say, never. I could never see myself doing that. But the proof in the matter is what happens when you actually come to that situation. Those are the moments of growth. There's a great story. I think I told this on Sunday a few weeks ago, and it's worth repeating. So, and this is an actual true story. It was in the Idaho Statesman online. So in downtown in the middle of the day, there was an Afro-American woman. I don't know if she just walked out of a restaurant or a business or something. And it was, like downtowns can be, a lot of people on the street where she was. And as she's just on the sidewalk, I guess doing whatever she's doing, a car sped by and some guy stuck his head out the window and yelled at her the N-word. This is in Boise, Idaho. I like to think we're better than that in Idaho for some reason. If nothing else, there's so few of us here compared to other states. It just seems like, I guess I'm naive. I'd like to think we don't do this in Idaho. But obviously we do. And so They said the woman, her viewpoint, the Afro-American woman, was just, of course, stunned and shocked by, again, standing on a street corner in the middle of the day and this car comes by and calls you that. But she said what stunned her more is that nobody said anything. That she wasn't looking for someone to jump in their car and chase the guy down and try to get an apology out of him or something. She said all she wanted was an acknowledgement that she had been hurt. All that she wanted was someone to come and maybe pat her on the back and say, "Are you okay? Can I help you in some way?" That's all that she wanted. And I would imagine that all of you right now are saying, "I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be there and say nothing. I would be the person that would go pat her on the back and say, 'How are you doing?' or something like that." But I would imagine each person on that street corner, if asked 10 minutes before that happened, would have said the same. That they would have been the person to come forth and give comfort. That they wouldn't have been the one, like the first two people in the Good Samaritan story, to walk on the other side of the road. So that's the point of this story. And again, it's not to make anyone feel bad about things that you regret doing or ideas that you harbor that you're trying to clear out. It's just to bring to reality of where will you, in a sense, walk on by when you know you're not supposed to. That heat of the moment, that fear of the moment I want to do something, but it's just safer not to. So Emmanuel Acho, and the host of the conversations, said that as he was imagining this story, and again, it is just a story, so we can put words in the character's mouth if we want for our own purposes. And he said that he imagined that the priest and the Levite, the thing that they thought, that the strongest thought that they had was, what would happen to me if I stopped? Think about that. What would happen to me if I stopped? So again, we're making things up. Of course, they're on this journey, walking from one city to another, which is dangerous and perilous. What would happen to me if I suddenly took the responsibility of this man that was beaten? Could I possibly get beaten then because I'm being slowed down? Again, I'm just making things up. Or I'm a higher caste in this society. What would people think if I'm dirtying myself with this man here who's a lower caste? I mean, any number of things. What would people think? And again, let's take it to reality, to that instance in Boise. What was going through those people's mind? Could it have been, what would people think if I came to their aid? Would they think badly of me for some reason? I mean, weird things go through our mind. So if you choose to walk away or walk on the other side of the road, your dominant thought is, what would people think? Or what would happen to me? What's happening, Aurel?
I'm not sure.
Well, we're having a little sound thing here. You might be able to hear or not, but maybe it's just here. Well, I don't know. The wire. Magic. It was coming undone. So, let's return to my story again. So, Emmanuel Acho then said that in the story, the thought that was most dominant in the Samaritan's mind was not what would happen to me, but his thought was, what would happen if I didn't stop? What would happen to the man there? And I'm sure that with the cultural differences in the story, this is his arch enemy supposedly, the first thought it might have been, oh my God, what would happen if I helped? But the dominant thought was, what would happen to him if I didn't stop? And there's lots of instances where we have those decision points, where we have a perceived danger or a real danger. But if we really let, as we say, the spiritual principles come within ourselves to live in integrity, we know what the right thing is to do. We know that, sure, I could be at risk in some way. But that higher calling is to ask, what would happen to that person if I didn't do anything? And I'm so saddened on that street corner in Boise that not even one person said, gee, how will she be if none of us react? If none of us come to our aid? If we all just kind of go like this and walk on by? So that's, I think, the lessons here with all the cards up in the air, that as we can decide how they fall, for us to ask ourselves that it's about a communal we that we have to decide. It's not just about, in this chaos, fear of having to go to my own corner and being as safe as I think that I can be safe. That there is a communal thing that we have to consider now as we have the power for these cards to fall in certain places. And it's okay if you're not perfect at it yet. What I really liked in this interview of Carl Lentz, God, he was so heartfelt, talking about being a dad. And he's a white man and as a dad and wanting to show his kids what's right. And he says, I'm carrying all sorts of stuff. And I'm still amazed even of the stuff that comes up. He says, I'm determined as a dad to not let things go unnoticed. Like I said, if I go into a restaurant and it says my family has been treated graciously and seated, and if someone else's family not so much, possibly because of their skin color, he points it out to his kids. And it might not even be a point to go to the maitre d' or the server to say something, but he will point it out to his kids so that they aren't raised blind like he was. And so he says, and the conclusion of the conversation between the two is that you don't have to reach this high standard of transcendence before you can start to not go to the other side of the road. That it's messy and it's icky and it brings things up that you don't want to have brought up, but just do it anyway. And I just want to close with two quotes that I think that say this for all of us, because none of us are, quote unquote, there yet. I know we like to think that we don't have anything within ourselves that shouldn't be brought to light, but we all do. We all have those weird things, and we all have those times that we are kind of in fear, want to walk on the other side of the road. But I have two quotes. The first one by Maya Angelou, which of course is so wonderfully spoken and stated. It says, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And here's one that's I kind of almost like it better because it's not as beautiful as Maya Angelou's. It says, start now. Start where you are. Start with fear. Start with pain. Start with doubt. Start with hand shaking. Start with voice trembling, but start. Start and don't stop. Start where you are. With what you have, just start. So the cards are up in the air. Just start, and let's have them mindfully fall where they need to fall. So let's just go into prayer for a moment here. And first, I start most every prayers with gratitude. There is so much to be grateful for right now. I am so grateful that we can make amazing decisions right now together. We can decide which side of the road to walk on. We can decide how to embody spiritual truth in our life. We can decide the course of the world. And I'm so grateful for this. And I affirm for myself, I affirm for each person who is watching here right now, that we are aware of spiritual truths in our lives. And we are seeking guidance and know right now how they can play out in a more positive way as we make these life-changing decisions in our lives. It is an exciting time. It is a wonderful time. It is a time of great miracles, and we are here a part of it. So, as I said, I am grateful, and I continue to be grateful and express my thanksgiving. And as I do, I release this word, this affirmation into the universe, and just imagine this word just kind of going out like a deck of cards. It's amazing the amount of energy that we just release. And as we release it and let it go, it falls down to earth in amazing ways. And so it is.